Welcome back to the PMR podcast. My name is Mitch. I'm an addict alcoholic. This is episode 56. Today we have a very special guest from the Vic James Center. She does many things with the Vic James Center as well as in her own life. Her name is Lauryn. I'm very excited to have her on. She's the director of career coaching with the Vic James Center, as well as having her own business. Very, very excited to get to talk with you today. We talked a little bit yesterday or 2 days ago. I'm excited to get into it. And thank you to the Vic James Center for sponsoring this episode. Again, we have Nova here as well, producing. She might chime in today a little bit.
Hello.
Which we're excited about. Yeah. And let's get into it. How are you doing today?
I'm great. It's Friday. I'm happy to be here. So grateful for you to have me here and to get to interact with you on this episode.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I was excited when we talked. Could you tell me a little bit about what you do at the Vic James Center?
Yes, so I am the director of career coaching at the Vic James Center, and I have my own business. I'm a career coach for artists and creatives. And so currently with Vic James, I am going into some of the other places that you may have heard about already, SPY and Claire Matrix and Police Activities League, and teaching art classes, art workshops. Okay. And we're mostly focusing on creative writing, spoken word, poetry. I've done some watercolor paintings, oil pastel, different kind of visual arts as well.
Yeah, that's awesome. I know we talked, we both do creative writing. I do that with the company that I work with. I think when we talked we were both at a group at 11, which was kind of funny. How did those groups go for you? What do you like to do with
I absolutely love them so much. The creative writing is, so I'm a poet as well. I write poetry, and there's a really cool place in LA called the Poetry Lounge. It's on Fairfax, and I've performed there before. But that was one of the first times that I was like, oh, wow, there's something to this, like performing in front of an audience, just sharing my work out loud. And I got into writing poetry more. I wrote it in college, but I started writing it more I was in a breath work and creative writing class.
Oh, that's awesome.
On Zoom. And I was like, whoa, this is really cool too. When you do breath work first and then you do something creative, it like just opens up the channels. And so I incorporate that a little bit into the classes as well. So right when I get there, we do a short grounding meditation too, and I allow them to like tune into their breath, tune into, the temperature of the day on their skin, the surrounding noises, just to kind of ground them in the present moment. And then we get into, I share a topic, and the topics are all over the map. One of them recently was if aliens landed on the earth. Right here, right now, write a story about that.
Yeah.
Or, someone write a story about someone with the Midas touch, and where everything they touch turns to gold.
Yeah.
And, some of especially when I go into the rehab, a couple times I've had people where they're like, oh man, we have to sit here. We have to write for 15 minutes.
Right.
Like, I don't want to do that, And I'm like, just trust the process. Even if you have to start writing, like, I hate this. I don't want to be here. Just like write whatever comes out. Yeah. Don't overthink it. And then they start writing. By the end of the 15 minutes, they're like, wait, I'm not done. Like, I have more to say, So it's like, it's interesting to see that happen too, and them get into it, and then for them to share in front of the group too. And I've had certain people like start crying, they're like super tough looking, and then they share their work and they're like in tears, and you can tell that they've just had like a release
Yeah.
of emotion and energy happen. And it's just such a beautiful experience.
Yeah. I love that. I think the group that I do is similar to that. And I've had similar experiences with clients that we've worked with that maybe like, oh, I don't do writing, I don't do journaling or anything like that. And then over time, like becomes one of the groups that they really like to do. I think also just the centering and what you can put on paper is so much different than if you're just having a conversation with someone, or if you're prompted with a question. You can say it, but writing it down and having it in a journal or something like that just feels like what you said, like more of a release too, I think. Definitely. And when we do the groups with my guys at one of our houses, I know we do like a blend of recovery questions and creative questions, and I feel like that's a good spot to be, especially going into like some of like SPY or stuff like that. If they're doing like a lot of hard work or things like that throughout the day, those kind of mixing it up with something a little lighter is always like really beneficial.
Yeah. Yeah, I try to bring that playful energy in because
Yeah.
I know that, there's a lot of, and in the career coaching, that's a separate thing, but in my art classes, I know that they're doing a lot of difficult work otherwise.
Mm-hmm.
And so I want, for that hour and a half, them to have a place that maybe like just the hour and a half like goes by faster for them because maybe they're really struggling and they just, every minute is a struggle for them. And I want to be able to help people have a place too where they can feel lightness, and be in the present moment and forget about all the troubles essentially, or if they are feeling that the trouble, to be able to like release that onto the paper. I know for me too, journaling and writing, especially when I'm feeling pissed off or a certain type of way, I can just get it out on the paper.
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh wow, that now I feel like I'm good to go. And I can tell people's energy shift too by the end of the class.
Yeah, definitely. I think the present moment is like my favorite thing. It was the first tattoo I got was the present moment right when I first got sober. And just remember that like everything right now is okay. That's one that I tell myself if I'm ever feeling like I'm going too far forward or too far backwards with anything. Just recentering to now. I can handle everything right now.
Yeah, I just taught a workshop for my business yesterday it's called Unlocking Wealth. So it's a transform your relationship with money as a creative.
Yeah.
And that was like the key foundational principle is like the present moment. We think that, once we get that external thing, the money, the job, the relationship, the whatever, we're going to feel a certain type of way when really we have access to that. The only place we have access to that feeling is in the present moment. Mm-hmm. And so it's not necessarily that thing that is going to create the feeling that we're looking for. We can create the feeling that we're looking for right here, right now. Mm-hmm. And so focusing in on that is only going to attract, the external things to you.
Yeah, that's true. Like last week, I caught myself thinking like, oh, I'm not happy. Like this isn't enough or that isn't enough. And like, I have a very busy life and I'm very grateful for that. And I caught myself like thinking about what else I could add, like what's the next thing that could pique my interest or something. And then like, I was like, everything is going like so well right now. It's kind of wild how even like I'm coming up on 7 years sober, how even then like, I still want, I'll catch myself like slipping back into old ways of thinking and stuff like that. But I think the difference being that I have like a pause, or I'm able to identify that a little bit faster now before it snowballs into whatever it snowballs into,
Yeah. And you have you have like other tools, other solutions to go to.
Yeah.
When it starts getting into the monkey mind crazy.
Yeah, right. Yeah. That's definitely true. Can you tell me how did you meet Sarah, and how did you come to start working with the Vic James Center?
Yeah, so I met Sarah. So I've been sober for almost 10 years now.
Awesome.
And I met Sarah when I was going through a really difficult point about 2.5 years ago. I had just broken up with my ex, and then I jumped into my business full time. I quit my corporate job. I had moved into a new apartment. So all these big changes had happened, and I had met her, and we were kind of like had some similarities in our stories as far as, you know, her brother. I have 2 older brothers who one has also struggled with alcohol and drug addiction and is currently sober. And the other one who just got out of prison after 24 years, you know, just some similarities with like family stuff and our journeys. And so right away we connected, and, you know, through our friendship, she had told me about this amazing vision that she had. And I was like, this is something I need to be part of. Like, this is so aligned with my goals and the work that I want to do in the world too.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, we just kind of continued our friendship and working with her and the Vic James Center has just been such a godsend, and it's only going to grow. Like, I can tell it's, you know, it's really just getting started, and I'm just really so happy to be part of it.
Yeah. We're happy to be part of it too. I think that Sarah's a super special person, and it seems like you are too. And it's like, I like meeting everybody that we've met so far that's working with them. It's just it's a different take for like Andrew and I, like actually meeting people, you know, that, or for me, he lives in Boston, but for me, meeting people that are in LA going into places and doing the work, that's it makes me feel like more, you know, more a part of, and a part of like a bigger purpose, you know, like a part of the team there. Yeah.
Yeah, and I feel like I can just relate to a lot of the younger people that we work with, and like some of the members at SPY, you know, they're struggling with a lot of different things and homelessness. And, you know, when I was growing up and a teenager, one of my best friends was homeless and like lived under the bridge in Napa. She had a dog, and like I would hang out with her. I'd go down under the bridge, like we'd, you know, tag on the walls and stuff. I would draw pictures and stuff, and we'd get drunk and like, you know, that. So like some of these kids, like I used to be one of them, you know, and to see where my life is now and so many of the changes that I've made, like even just moving to LA and like working for an international publishing company, being a wholesale rep for them, you know, starting my own business. Like sometimes I'm like, again, like I focus so much on like, but I want so much more, you know, I want to create all these things, but like, wow, like look where I'm at now,
Right.
You know, compared to where I used to be, it's so different. Like I used to be in such a black hole, and it's like I want to be able to, you know, help others, especially the younger generations, realize like you're not alone, and like here's what can happen.
Yeah.
You know?
I completely agree. I've been thinking recently, because like every time my sobriety date comes up, I have like it used to bring up shame and guilt. Now it brings up just kind of like reflection, and happy and sad reflection, which I'm okay with. You know, that's normal. I think I've been thinking how that period now, like almost 7 years ago, feels like a different life or something like that. You know, like I don't feel as like attached to that person, you know, which is kind of wild to me. Just thinking about the growth and how we got here, sitting on a podcast, and we were joking about this earlier. Like, it's just kind of insane. Like, you know, I'm in no position to be ungrateful or not happy with where I am. You know, I have to constantly remind myself that. And like, one of the things that I've really loved recently is like I woke up this morning. You know, the gift has already been given in that respect. So if I really try to carry that approach throughout my day, like you know, I'm not in a position to complain or be resentful or be upset, you know, like, I welcome like the challenges and stuff like that. I think like working in the spot that you do and working in the spot that I do, like, I love it. You know, like we had a hard day at work yesterday doing a lot of stuff, you know, going from house to house, working with clients, you know, and it was like one of the best days I've had there. Like, that's invigorating and like makes me feel like I'm in the spot that I should be, you know, which feels good.
Yeah. So yeah. Sometimes hard work can actually make you feel really good too.
Yeah.
Even though I dread it. You know, I'm like, same thing yesterday. I was like, I had a really long, big day.
Yeah.
And I was like, had so much anxiety about it.
Yeah.
And then by the end of the day, I was like, hell yeah. Like, right? I killed it.
Yeah. 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 I got home at like 11 and I was like, that was dope. You know? And one of my buddies was like, that was crazy. Like, I bet you're really tired or angry. And I was like, no, it was awesome. I don't always hold that. Let me be clear. I don't always come home and skip through the door. But yesterday I was happy with how everything went and everyone ended up being okay. So that was good.
Yeah. And you brought up that, that piece of shame too, like in early, I just want to go back to that too. Cause in early recovery for me too, I was like really nervous to tell people that I was sober. And like now I feel proud of it, you know? And I just remember when I moved to LA and like I was about a year sober.
Yeah.
And I started working for this publishing company and I was like so nervous for people to find out that I worked with and like so nervous to like, what am I going to do at, you know, when we all go out to dinner and like people see that I'm not drinking. Like it was so new for me and like I didn't know how to approach like what if people ask me why I'm not drinking, you know? And it's so weird that I didn't want people to know. I mean, I was so in it at the time. Like I was still struggling, right? Like I was still trying to figure it out. Whereas now it seems like it's more in the past, like you said, like a different life almost. And so I have a different perspective and I can feel proud of it. But I think it is important to recognize that for other people too. Like if they don't want to share openly about it, like I used to be like that, you know?
Yeah, definitely. And I appreciate you being open and honest about it. And I also appreciate people that want to remain anonymous and like, I mean, it's their recovery, right? Like I really had a perspective early on where I was like, everybody should be saying it. And this is like before I did any of the work. But I was like, everybody should be proud and post their picture on Facebook and post their coins. And why aren't you doing it? And you're so filled of shame. And like, so was I. But I was just like wanting, you know, like a pat on the back and validation. Like validation for me, Andrew and I had an episode on this, but like validation, it's wild how even now like attached I am to needing that. And we talked a little bit before about like being open about our recovery and the podcast in general. Like we're always checking ourselves in terms of like, are you doing this to get, you know, pats on the back? Are you doing this to get validation? Or like what we're checking our intentions, you know? And that is the flip side of being open about the recovery, I think. That like, and my mentor that I talked to about this, who's in recovery, he tells me like, you know, if you're open about it, then it's open to any interpretation, whoever's seen it, right? People in programs like that, and people that aren't. And because of that, you know, people can take any stance they want on it or say anything about what you're saying they want, you know, and God forbid, you know, I see relapse as always a possibility. You know, I would never say that I'm done. I just keep that respect of that. But, you know, if something like that ever did happen, you know, then people could point and be like, you know, look at that podcast he did. Like everything he said is invalidated, you know, and that may be an ignorant perspective or a fair perspective. I don't know. But it is a caveat with being open about recovery, I think. Something that I probably pay too much attention to. But I feel a lot better about it. I mean, I know my intentions, you know, I know, and I know like your intentions. We just want to come on, have a conversation, be open about what we've been through, where we're at. And if that's appealing to someone else, or if they relate to anything that you say or I say or anyone, and it helps them, that's really dope. You know, like we really have the goal of helping one person, you know, and Andrew and I always say, like, two people having a conversation, like we helped each other, you know, so if no one else watches, like I feel better.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But did you want to talk a little bit about like your sobriety and how you got to coming up on 10 years? Because that's really impressive.
Yeah. So I just, you know, growing up, I felt very different.
Mm-hmm.
I've always been an artist too. Like I love drawing.
Yeah.
I love creating. I love writing. And I just remember this one, like I went after Christmas break, holiday break in kindergarten. I went back to kindergarten. I just remember having the worst like freak out because I was worried that no one was going to remember who I was. And so I feel like that exact like traumatic moment of me, I remember the feeling. I remember freaking out and not wanting to go back into that kindergarten room.
Mm-hmm.
And like that's kind of just like me in a nutshell. Even going into AA meetings still, I'm like, no one's gonna know me. Like I'm so separate. You know, I'm different. I don't belong. Like I don't know what to say. No one likes me. I'm insignificant. Like that's my biggest shadow.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've really had to work through that and like get over that. And I still constantly, I have to keep pushing myself because I know the solution works, you know, within recovery of like what the working the steps, getting sponsor, going to meetings, being of service, all of those things.
Right.
And yet I still resist doing them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, It's so interesting to watch myself. And early on too, I like did not want to go to meetings. And I think what's cool is like everyone's journey is different.
For sure.
And I think you can create a sober lifestyle so many different ways. So being open to that and not thinking that it's, you know, a one-way path.
Yeah.
And yeah, so early on I went to like one meeting a month, but I got a sponsor. I started working the steps really quickly. And I you know, that pink cloud type stuff they talk about, like I was fully on the pink cloud. I was like, whoa, like my life has drastically changed. I feel so different. And because of that, I was like, I'm not going back.
Yeah.
Like I felt that commitment. And yeah, like you said, like we are not immune to, like I've heard stories too where 20, 30 years in, people relapse. So like I still have that healthy amount of fear that pushes me to work the program for myself. But I did, you know, for a lot of my sobriety, I was dry. I wasn't going to meetings. I didn't have a sponsor. But I was always really into like health and wellness and personal development, as why I started my coaching company. And so I was doing some work. It just wasn't in AA. Right. And then after, like I said, after a really bad breakup, changing my job, moving, all this stuff, I was having panic attacks and really bad anxiety. And thankfully at that time, my other brother, who is also in recovery, I was like, should I go on medication? Like I was seeing the doctor again, and I was like, I know what's going to happen if I get prescribed certain medications. Yeah. And so he was like, Lauryn, go to a meeting. So I found a meeting, started going, and I was like, wow, oh my God, my anxiety is leaving.
Right.
Like what?
Yeah.
Like no more panic attacks. What? Like going to meetings, that's working for me? Like for anxiety, I did not think that was going to be the case. And so from that kind of realization too, you know, the spiritual experience of like, wow, that's magic. And same when I came in too, there was like a very spiritual experience that I had, being the first day I was like, I have to go to an AA meeting today because I had a really bad incident, like walking up to the first AA meeting I went to. But as far as that day, I was like really hungover. I went to a quarterly meeting. This is when I was in Napa. I got sober in wine country.
Great place to get sober, huh?
Yeah. And I was at a quarterly meeting for work and hungover and just thinking like, okay, I have to go to this AA meeting because like I had tried every other solution, right? And nothing was working. And my friend's like, you need to get some help. Like, go to an AA meeting. And finally I was like, all right, it's time.
Yeah.
So I go to this, after the quarterly meeting, I sit in the parking lot of this meeting I was about to walk into, and I'm just praying, like, please let there be someone in here that can help me. And I walk in, and this girl from the quarterly meeting was right there. I was like, what?
Yeah, that's wild.
What are you doing here? And she's like, oh, I'm going to a meeting. And I'm like, I've known you for like 3 years now, and you're younger than me. And I had no idea. What? And then, so we walk upstairs, and she introduced me to her dad, and we were sitting there, like, getting ready for the meeting. And then in walks this other guy who was just at the quarterly meeting. And I was like, wait, what? Like, you too? Like, how could I not know this? And Napa's not that big of a city, but, like, still, the fact that the exact meeting I was just at, and now 2 people. Yeah. And so those 2 people were, you know, a big part of my early sobriety, and it just blew my mind. Like, it felt like a spiritual experience, especially with me praying in the car. I was like, all right, there's something to this.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
I appreciate you sharing your story like that, too. I think I relate to a lot of it, a ton of it. I think I had about a 2 to 3 year span of being dry as well, like dry alcoholic. Went back to like lying, cheating, stealing. I actually hurt people probably more sober than when I was using, honestly. And prayer that you were talking about is so wildly powerful for me. That really like changed my recovery, honestly, in like the last 2 years. Because I like to get in my own way, you know, my ideas and stuff like that. So praying for that to have someone else help me with that, with things, you know, asking to put me in positions to be of service and just kind of show up, see what happens, has worked really well the last couple of years. I think I've had a couple instances of meeting people at meetings or just in general that's just like unexplainable, you know, like couldn't really put words into it. It just happened, and it was like, all right, I got you. I'll come to the next one.
Yeah. It's crazy how like so many things are connected that we're not able to see until like it actually happens, and it is magic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You were talking about the people having different programs, and I think throughout my recovery, I've had different programs that have worked for me and haven't worked. I think that early, like I had the pink cloud for the first year. I was like doing meetings, sponsor, 90 and 90, all that stuff. And was doing really well. And then I got to a year and I was like, you know, because my specific circumstances, I'd been arrested a couple times, kicked off my college swim team, was told to leave my college unless I sought help. So that sent me to an inpatient facility my sophomore year of college. I did like 35 days there, then a 2 or 3 week outpatient, and then waited. My mom moved while I was in rehab to Ohio, where my college was, in like a town I had never been in. So when I came back from inpatient, I did my outpatient there, which was probably saved my life, because if I had gone back to Baltimore where some of my friends were and stuff, I probably would have snapped back. But I was in a different place, different people. That helped, you know. But it was like 9 months at home with my mom basically like trying to reapply or tell my school that I was better and I got help, tell my coach that I was better and I got help. And I had a different experience coming back because I had to be immediately open with my entire team, on my college swim team. And basically the campus the school is like 3,000 people. And I like, talk about feeling alone. Like it was 3,000 kids in the woods in Ohio. Like on the weekends, everyone's partying and stuff, you know, and I came back and there was a sober floor. It wasn't a sober dorm. There was a sober floor in a dorm, and that was the sober living. And I lived in there with one of my buddies because when I came back, I had to give a speech to the team, you know, talking about this is where I went to rehab. It was basically like I had to qualify why I could come back and be sober. And then I think I quickly went into not going to meetings about a year sober. So there was 2 years in college, my junior and senior year after coming back, where I didn't go to meetings, but I had like a whole campus of professors and kids on the swim team that knew I was. And if I messed up again, I would get kicked off. So I had like eyes on me all the time. And only until moving here, when there was like no one holding me accountable, and if I wanted to, I could, you know, I wasn't going to get kicked off. It was only going to hurt me, that I like started going like really crazy, like, cause I wasn't doing anything for it. And that kind of synced up with when I started this, cause I knew where help was in the meetings, and I still wanted to like start like this PM recovery page when I wasn't doing anything, just to feel that like community, you know, because I feel like isolation and feeling alone is like such a big piece for me. And a lot of it was like self-induced isolation, you know, that like people wanted to help, but I wanted to feel bad, you know, so I was going to feel bad.
Yeah, same. I totally resonate with that.
Yeah.
It's the isolation piece. It's like, I just don't, even still, you know, like I have to like put socializing in my calendar, because if I don't, like, I'll just want to stay home and isolate all the time.
Yeah.
But I know if I stay home and isolate for too long, I go crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel that. I'm like super social at work and with my like staff and clients and all that stuff, and like try to bring energy and all that. And it's like weird when I get home, I'll just like sit on the couch and be quiet. Yeah, I feel like I have like multiple personalities. But yeah. In terms of where you are today, though, like highly successful, you know, going out and spreading your message and help and trying to help others. What does that look like on like a day-to-day for you?
Yeah, well, just, I guess, bringing it back to Vic James Center too. Some of the other work, you know, now I'm teaching classes 3 days a week for them, and it's like this week was really cool because at SPY, which SPY, Safe Place for Youth, is this incredible community where they have this access center, and pretty much anyone under the age of 25 can come into this access center. They have free food, they have art programming, they have space for computers, they have people there to help. There's also like the Venice Clinic, I think, that they can get resources for like doctors and health resources. There's so much that they offer there, and it's like free. You know, it's so cool. I was like, wow, what is this place? They also have like a community garden.
Oh, that's nice.
And they just hired one of the members to work. I guess they hire some of them too to work at the garden, and so he has an internship there right now. But at a bridge home is where they live. They also have, I guess, about 7 different places where the members live. But a bridge home is one of the largest, and there's this area where there's all these picnic tables, and it's connected to the adults. I forget what it's called, the adult center as well. And so all the picnic tables are where we meet. And this week, I found they had a karaoke machine, and so we did. every week's different. I don't know who's going to show up. I don't know how many people are going to show up. But now people recognize me. I have created friendships with some of these members, and so they know me. And so some days they're like not in the mood. They don't even want to talk to me. And some days they're like, they really want to engage and like participate.
Yeah.
And so this week, there was about 10 or so members, and I gave them a creative writing prompt. We wrote for 15 minutes, and then they shared what they wrote with the microphone, which was amazing, like to get up and speak. And a few of them are really nervous to do that. But I was just like, every time people write, I'm just like, they're so talented. And a lot of the members are musicians and DJs. And so after we did the poetry or the writing piece of it, we started freestyling. So one of the members, he's really talented musician. And so he was like performing some of his music first. And then we put on some beats, like we just go on YouTube and put on some beats. And then they start freestyling, and it's so fun. And like everyone, people are coming out of the offices to watch. And, it's like, this is the type of stuff that you don't get to do very often, especially with this nice karaoke machine, with the microphones and the Bluetooth. And I'm like, I'm so glad that I now have access to this machine, because like I want to set up an open mic night or an open mic day for them. And there's so many of them are so talented. And you could tell when I left there too, like everyone was lit up. The week before that too, like we just had a smaller class, and they were about to go to a job fair. And I could tell even just the energy that had shifted before they went to the job fair. They were like getting ready, getting excited. They were like, two of the members didn't know each other were going. And so they started getting ready together. And so it just, the impact on their day, it's so rewarding for me. And I feel like that keeps my spirit high. And it's so fun. It's very terrifying at the same time, because I go in there and I don't know what to expect, and I don't know who I'm going to interact with, and I kind of have to come with this open mind. And sometimes there's conversations that, they just need someone to talk to, essentially. And I'm just there to listen, because I'm sure it's not often that they just have someone non-judgmental that's just going to sit there and like listen to what they have to say. And if they need certain direction, like I'm happy to help with that, because I do have my coaching, right? My coaching background. My business is I help creatives either change jobs if they want a career change, or I help them with their business. So I've worked with musicians, DJs, actors, visual artists, designers, painters, sculptors, any kind of creative you can think of, self-published authors, and I help them. It's a lot of mindset work, so it's like master your mindset, align with your purpose, and make money doing work you love. And so,
I like that.
Yeah, so it's like, it's so much of it is just mastering the thoughts that are going on in our brain, because we have like 60 to 70,000 thoughts every day.
At least.
Yeah, at least, especially if you have ADHD, I'm sure it's like way more than that. And so it's recognizing, seeing the limiting thoughts that are coming up, and like being able to release them or acknowledge them, feel the feelings that come with them, and then choose, to think certain things on purpose to get you to where you want to go instead of where you don't want to go.
Right. I love that you're doing that. And you talk about joy, and something that I was thinking about when you were talking was like, we're all just little kids with bigger shadows. Kind of takes the scariness away from people that you don't know sometimes. I think that I've had very similar experiences with that. Just the job, I work in treatment now. I started about 9 months ago. And when I started, I was like, I have no idea what's going to happen. Is it going to be too much? Is it, working with people going to be hard? Are they going to be scary, dangerous? You know, I get to sign something that was like, what's the level of danger for this position? High. I was like, oh boy, nothing has happened. But it is like, it is scary, like working with others. You're being vulnerable with them, right? You don't know how vulnerable or open they're going to be with you. You're putting yourself out there. That's kind of a scary place to be, you know?
Yeah, it is. And I, like going into a men's rehab too,
Right.
I went in there yesterday and I'm friendly, like I'm bubbly,
Yeah.
but I also, like, I'm going to call someone out on their shit, and I'm not afraid to stand up for myself. These are tools that I've learned for myself to create boundaries. So it's kind of, holding the space, but, and putting off that kind of energy at the same time. And thankfully, I mean, like I said, one of my brothers just got out of prison after 24 years. Like I went in to visit him quite often through those years. And so I've been around, even some of the people I used to hang out with, some of the other people that I meet in meetings, right? Like it's given me, like, I think one of my gifts is like, I have an open mind for people. Like I assume the best in people, which is also has hurt me
Right.
in the past, not having boundaries, but now I've learned. But I try to like really keep an open mind because I've seen people in my own life change so much, and I've seen people in recovery too, where the lights just come back on and it's like the most incredible thing to witness. Like, it's just such a beautiful thing to see someone who's like struggled so much and like just done some really horrible things too in their life. And for them to like want to get help, to want to change, to keep putting in the effort. And yeah, maybe like still making some mistakes along the way, but like to see the lights come back on and for them to like, want to commit to a path of like becoming a better human being is so beautiful. And like, I want to help people on that journey, like I want to remind them, you got this, keep going.
And you are, you are. And I appreciate you for doing that. And I think we just had a goodbye group for a guy that he successfully finished our program. He's there for 3 months. One of the and I haven't cried at any of them. And this one we do a little rock ceremony, pass the rock around. Everyone talks about, whoever's leaving. And I was like, I'm fine. And then someone handed the rock to me for my turn to talk to him. I broke down completely. His growth, we had a lot of people that have made big changes. His 180 was unreal. I see you getting emotional about that. I probably will too. Those turns are just unfathomable really. And he's saying you guys saved my life. Had a gun in my mouth before I came here. It was either I chose to do this or that's what it was going to be, what can you say about that? Completely different, I don't like to say it's a different person, but that person was always in there, but definitely he definitely got onto a different set of train tracks, it helps me, it helps them, it helps everybody. It's really hard work, but I would argue it's the most rewarding, being of service and helping others find something like that is the most rewarding thing that I can do. I haven't felt this sense of fulfilledness in anything else that I've done. And for me, that's how I know that what I'm doing is what I'm supposed to be doing. It was funny, when I first started working in treatment 9 months ago, everybody at my home group was be careful, high burnout, don't blend your recoveries, stuff like that. And I was I got you, I won't. And of course, first guy I met at the treatment center became buddy, and then he ended up struggling a little bit. But And then a couple more months down the road, then I was like blending recoveries and like upset with clients for not getting it how I got it, and blurring the lines between, why don't they get it and stuff. And where I'm sitting now, it's like I see it as work, but I just can't not have that like personal. There's boundaries there and stuff, but I can't not relate to them or want for them, I've done better on separating, if they don't get it and stuff, but it is like just such a wild growth arc. I'm sure like going into SPY and stuff like that. Like I remember there was like a week where I was like, why doesn't anybody get it? Like this is your chance, take it. And then I just had to recall like when I was in treatment, I like flipped a table my first week, like, so I love that you touched so much on the present moment too. Like, everything that gets me in trouble is me thinking too far that way or too far that way, if I just like come back to like, I'm sitting in a studio with Lauryn right now, just talking about recovery, that seems fine to me. That's something that I can handle, and trying to train myself to stay that present all the time, has been very helpful for me.
Yeah. Yeah. And for me too, it's like incredible just starting this work with the Vic James Center, how it's already shifted my, just walking down the street and like interacting with the homeless, demographic right in Venice and in Santa Monica, and like just even a little perspective shift. It's so weird walking down the street in Venice and you have like these like uber rich people, and then there's these just random people that are, hanging out with their dogs, with, near their tents or whatever. And it's like, it's every type of lifestyle. And for me too, like I said earlier, like, so I also work part-time for a publishing company, and I work in the store in Beverly Hills. And so I'm interacting with people who, in Beverly Hills, it's so different. Like the amount of money that they have and the things that they spend their money on is so different. So it's like every walk of life, and all everyone wants is just peace in this moment, right? Like there's no different, no matter like how much money you have or where you live. It's like everyone wants the same thing, is like some kind of feeling of connection, some kind of peace in the moment and enjoyment and fulfillment. And, we're really all the same when it comes down to it.
Yeah, 100%. That was like the craziest thing I've ever seen when I moved here. It was like my first week here, and there was a Lamborghini at a red light next to a whole underpass of tents. And I was like, that makes no sense. I've had the pleasure and, life-changing experience of working with a lot of homeless people and homeless veterans, and seeing them legitimately turn all the way back and get back into their lives, get reconnected with their family after being homeless for like 5-10 years, so that has also helped me change my perspective on the homelessness. I always cared for them, but in terms of like how I could help, I didn't know how, I didn't know how to. I wish we had a better collectively as like a country or state or whatever to help there more. There's no like one way to do it, but we help the ones that come to us, as best we can. And it's really, really true. Like the peace part that you said, in the group I was doing on Tuesday, one of the questions loosely asked, like, what are you looking for while you're here, with some other caveats. But I think across the board, peace or just like calmness, tranquility was one of the resounding answers. I can relate to that. It's like, I think that the peace is in the present, probably, if it's anywhere. But that feels like a goal that everyone shares, trying to get to that place of contentment. Because I used to think that I wanted to be like skipping down the halls. Like my goal was like peak happiness. Like every day's great, no problems. That's the goal, because I was like sad all the time. And then like as I've grown in my recovery and gotten older, like the challenges is like that. Some of that's the fun stuff, some of the challenges and the hard stuff. That's where the most growth is, for sure. I'm not going to grow if I skip all day and everything's all fine and it's like rainbows and all that stuff. Like there's no growth there at all. I do cherish those moments when I am super happy, but I think balance along with peace is like the biggest thing. And I was really tripping off balance, and then like an old timer hit me with like, balance is when you stop looking for it. And I was like, God damn it, that was a good one. But that kind of plays into like balance would be in the present moment, like balance would be when you're not looking for it and you're just doing what you're supposed to do, showing up and all that,
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
Yeah.
I would love to hear any tips on how you personally get into the present moment.
Yeah, I mean, the first
exercises or something.
Yeah, the first one is breath.
Right.
The hardest one.
Yeah.
Like I even catch myself just breathing so shallowly sometimes, and the breath is so centering. It's so simple, and it's just like taking a deep breath. It's delicious.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that.
It's delicious when you're not distracted or overwhelmed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because when you are not in that state of mind, breath is very hard to be present with because it's so simple.
Mm-hmm.
And it leaves you very vulnerable to the rest of the things that are bothering me. I will say me. I'll make it personal.
Yeah. Yeah. So what we were talking about earlier, writing, I think all the thoughts that are creating the intensity, the nervous system overwhelm, like that feeling, writing the thoughts out, like you have to not force, but like make yourself do that. And sometimes that can unlock the emotion that comes with it. Like sometimes it's an emotional release that needs to happen. I find for myself, like when I'm feeling this constricted feeling, like I have certain triggers now where I know like, oh, I need to cry. Like I need to go take time aside. Like I need to create a space and time where I need to go ground and get in tune with what's going on in my brain and my body and release whatever's making me feel this craziness right now. And so either, I'll go to nature because that's really grounding, and it gets me into a different place so that I can reset. Or like within my home, there's certain meditations I'll listen to where if I sit and close my eyes and start breathing, the tears just come. Like the emotion just comes. And same with the writing thing. Like if I'm having a hard time connecting with that feeling because I've been resisting it for so long and trying to just get by with not acknowledging it, sometimes it just needs to be acknowledged for it to be released and not resisted. And having those practices and testing out, there's a million different ways to get in tune with those feelings and get familiar with them and allow them to be released. And it's kind of just like, testing them all out, trying them all on and see what works best for you.
Yeah, 100%. I think it's like we're talking a lot about program building too, centering and present moment, breathing, writing, sounds like that's a part of your program. Me too. Like, and over time we find out what works more and what doesn't work too. I think I always like the closing my eyes and feeling my like feet on the ground. That one helps me a little bit along with breathing. I'm so sad that Andrew couldn't make it today because he's a certified breathwork instructor, and that he would have loved to talk with you about that.
Breathwork's so good.
Yeah.
There's some weird things that happen with breathwork. Like
Really?
I've seen a lot of people in breathwork sessions just start bawling. Like it unlocks some weird energy, and it's pretty powerful.
Yeah, very much so. Yeah, he guided me through one breathwork session before, and it was nuts. Like I haven't had that feeling in like my chest, or like I haven't had that, ever. So I ask him all the time. I'd love to get more into that and try to incorporate that more into my daily level. I don't at this point, but I do see the value in it and the power of it for sure. But I did want to say a big thank you for you coming in today. It's been wonderful talking with you, hearing a little bit about your story and all that you're doing. And it does take a special type of person to want to share their message and go out there, be vulnerable, help others. So a very genuine thank you to you. Thank you for Nova being in here today. Appreciate you helping us as always. We'd be lost without you. And thank you to everyone listening and the Vic James Center for sponsoring this episode and allowing this to even be possible. Very grateful today.
Yeah, thank you so much. And thanks for having this platform for all of us to share.
Of course, it's a lot of fun. I look forward to it every week. But thank you so much. This has been episode 57 with Lauryn, and we will keep coming back. Thank you. Hey.
Yay.
That was dope. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I look forward to it all the time. I tell the people at my house that like on Friday morning, I'm not available. That's like my 2 times that I'm not available is like this and Tuesday nights for my home group. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Other than that, they call me all the time.
Good job, guys. That's a wrap.
Yeah.
Thank you.